This is gonna take crackerjack timing, Wang.
Total concentration. You ready, Jack?
I was born ready.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is your boy Skip, aka Skipntosh, ready for another episode of Outside the Bleed with my main man Wes. Say what's up to the people, Wes.
How's everybody doing? I hope you're all ready for some giant-sized X-Men cipher.
Pretty much. That's a little pun. Hopefully everybody here that is watching this video has read Giant Size X-Men cipher featuring Nightcrawler, because we are going to get into spoilers, obviously. And one of the first things that we'll talk about is that apparent fact that this was not so much a Nightcrawler story, and which, Wes, has kind of been a similar thing, right? With the last Giant Size X-Men, that wasn't quite an Emma Frost, Jean Grey story like it was billed to be. But what I will say about both of them is I did really enjoy them. The last issue's art was incredible with all of the coloring and stuff, especially from Matt Wilson. I enjoyed the line art from Russell Dodderman. This time around, it's a little different. Of course, Jonathan Hickman is the writer of this book, but we have Alan Davis, who is the artist for this book. And I read a tweet online saying that Alan Davis, after he got the rough outline from Hickman, kind of took it and went through and kind of started putting it together and was equally as involved with the story as Jonathan Hickman was. And Wes, I don't know if that's a great thing or not, because it wasn't exactly what we billed. How did you feel about Nightcrawler not quite being in the book as much as we thought?
Well, I will say this, shout out to Alan Davis. I'm glad he got a story credit from Jonathan Hickman. It's great that he let him be a part of it. Nightcrawler is without a doubt my favorite X-Men. He's my favorite X-Men over Wolverine, Cyclops, all of them. So I was very excited about this. It's like, Nightcrawler never gets to be the feature character in anything. He's always a supporting character. I was like, finally, we're going to get a great Nightcrawler story. So it is disappointing because it's not really a Nightcrawler story. We don't really get into anything about Nightcrawler. He's kind of just there to be the senior member of the team. But it's really like a New Mutant story with Nightcrawler, guest starring. So that was disappointing. I do really like the art by Alan Davis. I don't want to undersell that, because it feels like an old school X-Men comic book. A lot of the stuff right now, a lot of them have that Stuart Immonen feel, with the R.B. Silva, Pepe Larraz, Steven Segovia. They all kind of have that feel to them. There's a few of them that feel different like this, but this feels much more old school. I love the look and feel of it, and I got to give them this. I think Magic normally looks like a terrible character. It visually never interests me or anything at all, but Alan Davis makes Magic look like a great character.
Absolutely. Fully agree. And that's where things really shine for me, was in the art. Alan Davis's art and Carlos Lopez's colors totally felt like a throwback to some of the not quite John Byrne, but around that. I felt like I was reading God Loves Man Kills again, with just how it looked visually, the lines and stuff. The line art was really cool. Like I said, the coloring, even kind of, for it to be digital, harkened back to some of the coloring and the color palettes from those older X-Men books. And for them to, start off with Nightcrawler and him being there and him kind of being prominent, at least in the beginning, it just kind of totally took me back to that era of X-Men. So I really did appreciate that point. Now, switching back more over to the story, I agree with a lot of what Wes said. This felt like more of a New Mutants book that had Nightcrawler in it. After coming out of, a few issues ago, we had the whole Crucible story where, Nightcrawler easily had played more of a role in that book. That almost, they should have flip-flopped him. That should have been more of the Giant Size X-Men's story with Nightcrawler in it because he was more prominent. But they gave us the whole concept, you know, and the idea that he was thinking about starting a religion. And then we tie that back to some of those 3 tarot cards that we got out of Powers of 10. And we're like, okay, we're on to something. I felt like we were going to get one more morsel of the storyline of him going through and this being an experience, because it was like haunted, right? And I'm thinking, oh, haunted. Nightcrawler is known for being a man of faith, and I'm thinking, ooh, faith versus fear. He's going into this fearful thing. They go into the X mansion. There's been readings. It seems like something that is classified, or at least appears to be mutant, is trying to get through the gate but is being rejected. They go there and we see Proud Star there, and it's like, oh, okay, that's a cut back to the first giant size X-Men by Lin Wein. Okay. And as the story progresses and, you know, finally someone, you know, we'll get to that part, gets pulled away from it. After that person got pulled away, Wes almost immediately, like once we got a few bamfs, and it's almost like Nightcrawler's importance bamfed out of the story, and now we're following more along with Magic and Cypher and whatnot. So that's the part that, you know, kind of started to take us out. Now, how did you feel the overall story went from what the conclusion was at the end?
Well, let's talk about, you know, some of the, like, when I read Giant Size X-Men, Jean Grey, Emma Frost,
sure,
which really wasn't a Jean Grey, Emma Frost, but we got a great amount of characterization about Storm in that book, like some really cool morsels here. And that's kind of what's missing in this comic book. There's almost no characterization for anything. It's just they kind of arrive in a haunted mansion and you're kind of wondering, you know, everyone's kind of off kilter. Nobody kind of gets what's going on. Is John Proudstar really there? You know, they're seeing all these aberrations of things.
Right,
Rachel. But we're never really learned anything about the characters or the state of things, you know, as far as characterization. So it's just really like a haunted house whodunit kind of story, and it's executed okay. But like you said, it's not a Nightcrawler story. But you know, then finally, you know, Cypher gets pulled away. He goes into another part of the house, and then, you know, he releases Warlock. So we get to see Warlock. We've been seeing him more recently, and I do like that. I think that's cool. And he finally kind of gets to the heart of the matter. And it was kind of a letdown. I don't know. That was how I felt.
I agree with you there. Like, I think the main point of characterization that we got, and it wasn't even there was enough characterization to call it that, but it was more of kind of a almost like a pact or something that happened between the two characters, was when Magic finally showed up. Like, you know, in the main hub, where, because as we all know, those aberrations that we were seeing, Proudstar and Rachel and all that, it ultimately ended up being the Seedry. And the Seedry is like a super deep cut. The Seedry was like essentially like galactic bounty hunters. They're a bunch of these little tiny bugs, and they can be commissioned by whoever to go and to hunt for something. In this particular case,
the aberrations, those are from the person that they discovered. She was putting them out there so they would keep investigating.
Right, exactly. That's who was behind creating the aberrations. The aberrations themselves were comprised of the Seedry. The Seedry, she basically clustered the Seedry, had the Seedry cluster together to form these people that those X-Men were familiar with, and that's why at first, you know, they were like, hold on, wait, like, I see you're appearing here and there. I see you, Rachel. Why aren't you acting normal? Like, what's going on? And then ultimately we find out who's behind creating those aberrations that the characters knew within the mansion. But yeah, they were comprised of the Seedry, and the Seedry, they're like I said, they're like a little tiny, like, kind of bug colony, if you will, or cluster. And basically to find out
spiders.
Yeah, exactly. Galactic bounty hunting spiders. So I guess we're pulling some of the sci-fi elements back, you know, which is cool. I'm totally fine with that. But ultimately, when they're inside of like the hub of where they're at, and when they're getting ready to discover who is behind the Seedry making these aberrations, trying to pass through the gate, Warlock comes off, and Magic's like, you know, basically, hey, Cypher, you gonna tell me about why Warlock is completely off your arm and what you got him doing? Because Warlock is covering like the Queen Seedry right now. And he's like, can we talk about it later? I was like, hold on, wait. Warlock has finally been acknowledged by someone. Last time we saw him, he was there, and then he went away, and then we come back, he's gone again. And now when we can get some more information about him, they're like, yeah, can we talk about it at another time? I was like, yo, that could have been more of the characterization. That could have gave us more information about why Warlock is on Cypher's arm, but we didn't get that, and that unfortunately was another little letdown for me as well. So that's that. But Wes, so what did we end up finding out? Like, who was behind the aberrations trying to get past the gate? What was that reveal all about?
It was
How'd you feel
certainly a
about
mutant that could put things in your mind, make you see things, and it was Lady Mastermind.
Lady Mastermind behind it all after all this, which, you know what, I will say this. I do appreciate that, the story wasn't like, all for nothing, even though the middle wasn't. Yeah, I mean, the second act of stories tend to kind of be that way where things go down a little bit. But the third act wasn't this big old thing, but at least the reveal that it was Lady Mastermind. And the other part that I think even more than Lady Mastermind being revealed to be behind the aberration, she was basically using the aberrations to try to breach the gate so she can call and have someone come back through and get her help, because the Seedry had basically put her in a cocoon. So what we find out is that Cypher, using Warlock, had made a pact with the Seedry. The Seedry had taken over the mansion while everybody was gone, and then Lady Mastermind comes there and is like, hey, I'm trying to pass through the gate. They capture her. They're like, hey, you can keep the mansion for now. And they basically got an ally. And I think that's kind of cool, because they'll probably need one, but with having a pact with the Brood now, having a pact with the Seedry, I feel like the Phalanx is coming, so it's nice to have them in the corner. But Wes, ultimately, do you feel like there's anything else that, that Lady Mastermind might be contributing to the story, or do you think just them getting the Seedry on their side was the main point of this comic, besides making an extra $5 off of us?
No, I think it was definitely twofold. It was to introduce the Seedry or in the old X Mansion, and they brought back another, a mind-controlling mutant that can make people see things back into the fold. There are far too many of them, to be completely honest. Man, they really ran out of ideas on mutant powers, and just like, let's think of 90 ways to do the exact same thing with telekinetic mutants. So it's actually kind of boring. So I will say this, let's wrap this up. If you are a Nightcrawler fan and you are thinking of buying this comic because you want a Nightcrawler story, don't do it. It's not a Nightcrawler story. They can call it Giant Size X-Men Nightcrawler all they want. This is not a Nightcrawler story. This is a Cypher New Mutant story, guest starring Nightcrawler. If you're enjoying, where the places that Jonathan Hickman is taking X-Men, and you want something that's maybe disconnected from the main stories, but is obviously going to reconnect at some point, definitely check it out. The art alone is really good. And Alan Davis drives a damn good Nightcrawler for that as well. But so I was disappointed. I don't really recommend this. This is not exactly what I was saying. This was disappointing. I really like Giant Size X-Men, Jean Grey and Emma Frost, but this one felt like a waste of time.
I agree. I think if they just because and these issues aren't giant size either. I mean, this one was 33 pages, and to take a page out of Ash's book, pun intended, 5 of the pages at least, were white pages. So it's not giant size. They're charging the extra $1 or whatever for the comic. Really, I think if you want to keep the giant size name just to pay homage to Len Wein and some of the old stuff, keep that, but just say that they're one shots, build them as they are. And I think if you tell us that they're tying more into the overall story, I think that'll be more honest than, setting us up to feel like, oh, this is going to be about Emma Frost and Jean Grey. Oh, this is going to be about Nightcrawler, just to find out that ultimately that it's not. I personally, though, I did enjoy this comic. Overall, I like where it's going. I like following behind it. If you're into visuals and art, I think it's a good way to go. But we'll see the next one. The next one's supposed to be about Magneto. We'll see about that one. And they're saying Magneto, so there's no way that we can get away from it. But ultimately, if you are a fan of Scooby-Doo, just like Ra Henry said, taking the words out of my mouth before Wes and I started this recording, That's really what it is. This was like a whodunit Scooby-Doo type story, only just to find out, oh, it was the Seedry. Oh, wait, it was Mastermind. That's ultimately what this is. And I'm a Scooby-Doo fan, so it didn't bother me too much. But that was it for Outside the Bleed this week, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in, talking about some of the things that go outside of the fringes and the margins of this comic book. Continue to check us out next week, and keep an eye on social media. Please join the Discord as well, and you'll find out what book we'll be covering. And we will see you guys next week.
Peace. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.